Revealed, the incredible journey of a 26-year-old billionaire who defied his uncle's neglect. Jake Thompson stood before the gleaming glass tower of his tech empire, heart pounding with an odd mix of pride and betrayal. At just 26, he had turned a childhood obsession with coding into a billion-dollar venture. Yet, all he could think of was his uncle Harold, the man who had once taken him under his wing, only to let go when Jake needed him most. Harold now roamed in circles that oozed wealth, disdainful of Jake's humble beginnings, seeing them as a stain rather than a testament to triumph. In that moment, as Chicago's skyline glimmered in the late afternoon sun, Jake felt the weight of his achievements. The $2 billion valuation of his startup couldn't fill the chasm left by a broken family. Memories of his mother's warm encouragement echoed in his mind, a gentle reminder of love that had long been replaced by indifference and judgment. His success felt like a cruel twist of fate, a victory overshadowed by his uncle's cold dismissal of the past. Back in his childhood neighborhood, friends rallied around him. They cheered every step Jake took into this new elite world. They were the heartbeat of his journey, a community woven together by shared dreams and struggles. They told him stories of resilience, reminding him that they saw him not a billionaire, but Jake just one of them, speaking the same language of grit that they all had once shared. But as he thrived, shadows loomed. A whisper of sabotage tickled the back of his mind, as mysterious bugs breached the code of his latest project. They weren't just lines of bad programming. They felt like betrayal, a shot aimed at his credibility. As he pieced together the puzzle, whispers led him back to Harold's affluent social circle. The realization hit hard. Someone in that glittering group wanted to see him fail, to knock him down a peg that he had so painfully climbed. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake felt the tightness in his chest deepen. Was this Uncle Harold's influence? Did he think Jake too small to stand among the elite? The thought burned like fire. He wanted to scream, rail against the injustice, but another voice whispered softly, what if forgiveness could be his liberation? As he pondered this painful crossroads, memories of his late mother washed over him. Would she want him to spiral into revenge or rise with dignity? The stakes danced dangerously high, a mix of dignity and rage swirling inside him. With newfound resolve, Jake prepared for the fight ahead, deciphering the twisted layers of family loyalty that held him captive. Jake stood at the precipice of his future, a battle waging between forgiveness and vengeance. Did he have what it took to rise above not just the scars of his past, but the scheming of those seeking to undermine him? Time would tell, but resolve shimmered in his heart. As he readied himself for the confrontation ahead, a single question echoed in his mind. Could he soar above the weight of his family's disapproval and become the man he was born to be? Or would he be swallowed by those very shadows threatening to pull him under? Jake gathered his thoughts as he walked through the bustling streets of Chicago, the weight of his decision pressing down like an anchor. He had spent countless nights working, fueled by ambition and a desire to prove himself. But now, here he was, cloaked in doubt, wondering if he could truly transcend the expectations of a family that only saw value in dollars. During his journey home, the city pulsed with life around him. People rushed past, each with their own dreams and struggles. Yet Jake felt isolated in his thoughts. He thought of the loyal friends who cheered him on, the ones who had been there through every sleepless night. Plodding down familiar avenues, he pondered whether their unwavering support could help him confront the ghosts of his family ties. When he reached his old neighborhood, memories flooded back. He passed by the little diner where he spent countless afternoons coding with friends. A smile crept onto his face, but it quickly vanished as he recalled how far he had come from that humble place. Did he even belong here anymore? Suddenly, his phone buzzed with an incoming message, breaking his reverie. It was a video call from Mia, his childhood friend. Her smile lit up the screen, warm and inviting. "Hey, billionaire. Just wanted to check in," she said, her voice bringing a spark of brightness to his gloomy mood. "Hey, Jake replied, trying to find his footing. I'm working through some stuff. Her eyes narrowed, sensing his emotional turmoil. You mean Harold? I heard things from the grapevine. Listen, don't let that man get in your head. You've built this amazing life for yourself. We all believe in you. The sincerity in her words wrapped around him like a comforting blanket. It was a reminder of why he started this journey to lift those around him, to prove that success could come from the most unexpected places. Thanks, Mia. I needed that. They talked for a while longer, sharing laughter and memories. Mia's presence, albeit through a screen, offered a grounding force. Her strength was infectious, and when they finally signed off, his resolve felt fortified as the evening settled in. Jake returned home and sat down at his old desk, now cluttered with the remnants of his success, a trophy for entrepreneurial excellence, a picture with industry giants, stacks of documents for upcoming projects. But one item stood out, an old journal. It was tattered, filled with notes from his childhood dreams and fears. Flipping through the pages, he found a familiar entry about resilience and family. Never forget where you came from, it read simply. Maybe he didn't have to choose between revenge and forgiveness. Maybe he could confront his uncle, not with rage, but with a desire for understanding. Jake looked out his window at the twinkling skyline. It felt like a new path was materializing. He thought about the dinner party at Harold's estate the following weekend. It was the perfect opportunity not to engage in a war of egos, but to invite his uncle into a dialogue about their fractured connection. But as Jake mapped out this fragile approach in his mind, a wave of uncertainty washed over him. Would Harold even listen? Would he dismiss Jake's efforts as naive weakness or embrace the chance to mend old wounds? With those questions gnawing at him, he couldn't ignore the urgency of his choice any longer. The very moment of truth was approaching, right within his grasp. Could he bridge the chasm of their past lives? Or would this confrontation crumble under bad blood and pride? Determination swelled within him, ushering in a newfound clarity. As he reached for his phone to send a message to Uncle Harold, Jake took a deep breath, hoping that whatever the outcome, he'd be true to himself. The journey was nowhere near over. Was he ready for what lay ahead? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Jake felt the weight of the task ahead. He sat at his desk, fingers hovering above the keyboard. Could a simple message convey the complexity of his emotions? Finally, he typed a few lines, each word a cautious step toward potential reconciliation. Uncle Harold, I'd like to talk before the dinner party this weekend. Can we meet? He paused for a moment, finally tuning each part of the message in his mind. He pressed send and felt a mix of liberation and trepidation wash over him. The die had been cast. The next few days crept by at a snail's pace. Jake threw himself into work, burying himself in numbers and reports as a way to distract himself from the impending dialogue. But their shadow loomed large, relentless, and ever-present. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart raced. Was it Harold? Would he respond or ignore the olive branch Jake had extended? Friday evening arrived, and the air felt electric with potential. He stood in front of the mirror, pulling at the collar of his dress shirt. He didn't want to be just another heir to the empire tonight. He wanted to be Jake, vulnerable, authentic. With a final glance, he stepped out, anxiety mingling with a flickering sense of hope that Harold's estate loomed ahead, opulent and imposing. As he walked through the manicured gardens, memories of family gatherings flooded his mind. Each glimpse of the grandeur made the weight of their unresolved history feel heavier. Once inside, he scanned the room. Smiling faces and clinking glasses had transformed the house into a carnival of wealth and status. Yet, in this crowd, he felt an unshakable loneliness. His uncle stood at the center of it all, commanding attention with his booming voice and charisma. As Jake approached, rehearsal of his words played out in his mind. This was it, the moment to confront the man who had been both a mentor and a tormentor. "Jake, you made it," Harold exclaimed, enveloping him in a robust hug. The warmth felt genuine, momentarily disarming. Pulling back, Jake managed a smile, but noticed the curious eyes of the guests darting towards them. He could almost hear their unvoiced questions. What's happening here? Is he going to take his rightful place? Can we talk? Jake blurted out, his voice steadier than he felt. A flicker of concern crossed Harold's face, but he quickly masked it with a smile. Of course, Jake. Just give me a second. As the evening flowed on, Jake's nerves twisted tighter. Every laugh felt like a dagger. Every clink of glasses echoed the sense of discord between them. Harold was dismissive, charming the room while neglecting the tension simmering between the two of them. Finally, they slipped into a quieter corner, away from prying eyes and curious ears. Jake felt the pulse of his heartbeat in his throat. I really want to understand us, Uncle. I need to know why our relationship has always felt so strained. Harold's expression hardened slightly, like steel drawn taut. You know your father and I had our differences. I've always simply looked out for the business. That wasn't the answer Jake was hoping for. He pressed on, but I'm not just the business. I'm your family. Can we talk about the past? What happened between you and my dad? The room blurred around them as Jake held his breath, waiting for the storm to unfold, not knowing it would shake the very foundations of his understanding. What I had to do was for the best. Jake's stomach twisted at the tone. Would he ever get the answers he needed, or would he face years of silence? The clock ticked away, each second amplifying the tension building in the space between them, and then it happened. Just as he started to voice his struggle, the sound of shattering glass rang out, echoing through the lavish hall. The room froze, the delicate atmosphere shattered in an instant. Jake turned, heart racing, unsure of what chaos had erupted. Could this be the pivotal moment that changed everything, or would it drown his efforts in confusion and doubt? Jake's heart hammered as he turned back toward the source of the noise. Guests whispered and glanced around in startled confusion. A young woman stood frozen, her hand covering her mouth, eyes wide in disbelief. Shattered glass sparkled like diamonds on the floor, a stark contrast to the elegance surrounding them. Harold's face went pale, the color draining away as he glanced at Jake. Worry etched in the lines of his forehead. Stay here, he instructed, his voice suddenly serious. He pushed past Jake, heading toward the chaos, leaving Jake momentarily stunned. Jake's instinct told him to follow, to somehow bridge the gap between them while the atmosphere crackled with tension. He took a deep breath and stepped out from the corner, scanning the crowded room. The scene filled with flush-faced guests and murmurs felt surreal, like a world spinning out of control. Excuse me, is everyone okay? Jake called out, planting his feet firmly. The shards of glass on the floor glinted ominously, the remnants of a champagne flute that someone had clearly dropped in a frenzy or perhaps anger. This was more than just an accident. It held a weight that mirrored his own tumultuous emotions. Jake, over here. Harold's voice boomed through the crowd, snapping Jake back to reality. His uncle waved him over, sounding both urgent and frazzled. Barely aware of the eyes now focused on him, he squeezed past onlookers to find Harold standing beside the woman, who now looked on the verge of tears. Are you all right? She was in her late 20s, her dark hair spilling over her shoulders. Jake could see the remnants of panic mixed with embarrassment in her expression. Yeah, I'm fine, she stammered, her voice shaky. I didn't mean to. It's all right. Accidents happen, Harold cut in, dismissing the situation with a wave of his hand, but Jake could sense the underlying tension in his voice. Harold turned to Jake, eyes flickering with something Jake couldn't quite decipher. Why don't you help her clean this up? Me? Jake shot back, incredulous. Part of him wanted to refuse, to turn the moment back to the conversation that was dangling between him and Harold. But there was something in his uncle's gaze, a blend of expectation and anxiety that urged him to comply. Please, Jake. Harold pressed, an unusual softness creeping into his tone. I can handle the guests. Just take a moment here. Nodding slowly, Jake knelt beside the woman, their knees nearly touching, the distance between them a dramatic shift from the emotional chasm he felt with his uncle. They carefully began picking up the shards, both unsure of how to break the silence that settled in. Thank you, she finally said, genuine gratitude spilling from her voice as she glanced quickly at him. I didn't mean to make a scene. Don't worry about it. Just a little chaos to spice up the night. He offered a reassuring smile, sensing that this brief moment of connection was a welcome distraction from the heavy weight of the family tension hanging overhead as they finished gathering the last of the glass. Jake's phone buzzed in his pocket, a notification that sent his heart racing once again. He pulled it out, glancing down to see a message from an unknown number. He quickly skimmed it before his mind registered its full impact. Your father has something you need to see. Meet me tomorrow. I'll explain everything. Jake froze, staring blankly at the screen. The world around him faded momentarily as a new layer of uncertainty settled in. The information freed itself from the confines of Harold's family history and unfurled worry like a dark cloud overhead. Jake, you good? The young woman's voice snapped him back to reality. With a forced smile, Jake met her gaze, torn between two worlds, the present chaos and the looming past wrapped in a text he'd never expected. Little did he know, this moment would change everything he thought he understood about loyalty, legacy, and the ties that bind. Could a single encounter lead him to the truths that buried so deep? Or would he find himself tangled in a web that offered no way out? Jake felt an electric jolt of anxiety as he pocketed his phone, the message still echoing in his mind. What does he mean, meet me tomorrow? The thought gnawed at him, intertwining with the tension still crackling in the air. Hey, you sure you're all right? The woman's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts again. Her eyes searched his, filled with a mix of concern and kindness. Yeah, I'm good, Jake replied, but it came out more like a question. There was something comforting yet disarming about her presence. Just unexpected news. She nodded, her attention snapping back to the shattered glass. You know, it's funny how one moment can change everything. Like this party, she gestured with a slight wave. One broken glass, and suddenly, the vibe is all off. He chuckled lightly, though it did little to ease his inner turmoil. Yeah, to think I came here just to celebrate. Do you know who dropped it? She asked, shifting gears effortlessly. There was something refreshing about her, a lightness he craved to latch onto amidst the weight hanging over him. I'm not sure. Someone just lost it, I guess. He shrugged, trying to shake off the thought of hidden family secrets and impending confrontations. I just hope the poor soul didn't have too much to drink. She smiled, a genuine warmth emerging that made Jake feel less alone. I think half the party is in that boat, he said, stealing a glance around the room. Guests were still whispering, laughter still bubbling in certain corners, and yet Jake felt like a bit of debris, adrift in this chaotic sea of animated guests. By the way, I'm Mia, she said, extending a hand for a quick shake, which felt grounding somehow. Jake, nice to meet you, Mia, he replied, grasping her hand, feeling a surge of warmth. Nice to meet you too, she said, the sincerity behind her words resonating in the air. Jake took a deep breath. You really handled that well. I mean, the drop, and all the chaos surrounding it. I try to keep calm, she said with a playful grin, but I can't say I expected an evening like this. All the glitz, and yet here we are, picking up shards of life. Life's like that sometimes, isn't it? He mused, suddenly aware of how poignant her words felt against the weight of his own realizations. Right? Just when you think you have it all together, her gaze drifted past him, and Jake could see a certain cloud of contemplation reshaping her features. What is on your mind? He asked, curious now about her as well. Oh, just family stuff, she replied, almost too quickly. Yeah, I can relate, he said, feeling a strange bond form between them, both entangled in similar strains of familial expectations. Just then, Harold's voice rose again, breaking through the crowd. Mia, sorry about the glass. You're all right? Yes, Harold, all good. She called back, then turned to Jake. Guess I should be getting back to the party. Jake nodded, but as she stood, he felt an unwanted sense of loss settle into the pit of his stomach. Can I? The word stumbled out. Can I see you again? After this? Mia paused, surprise etching across her face. Sure, but I mean life gets busy, I get that. But maybe let us try. She smiled, a flash of warmth igniting in her eyes. I'd like that. The moment felt electric, weaving itself into Jake's reality as he watched her drift back to the crowd, her presence lingering like the final tune of a favorite song. His phone buzzed again, pulling him back from the sweet distraction. It was another message from that unknown number, this time reading, "Be ready. Tomorrow may change everything." Jake's heart thundered again, but now it was mixed with a glimmer of hope. Could tomorrow bring resolutions, or would it deepen the shadows? He stepped back from the shards of glass, contemplating not just what lay ahead with his father, but how his connection with Mia might evolve unexpectedly. As he turned to follow Harold deeper into the party, He couldn't shake the feeling that the upcoming meeting would twist his life in ways he hadn't begun to fathom. Would he uncover secrets that reshape his world, or would he unlock feelings that would challenge everything he thought he knew? The busyness of the party buzzing around him felt like background noise to Jake. He moved through a crowd of laughter and clinking glasses, but his mind was elsewhere. Each beat of his heart seemed to replay the last moments with Mia. Her smile, her warmth, it all contrasted sharply with the whirlwind of thoughts surrounding his impending meeting. Jake grabbed a drink from a nearby table, trying to ground himself. The cold glass felt comforting against his palm as he sipped, letting the fizz prick at his tongue. But even that small distraction couldn't keep him from imagining what tomorrow might bring. A corner of his mind wrestled with curiosity, while the rest was tied in knots of nerves and unresolved feelings. He caught sight of Mia across the room, surrounded by laughter, a few friends forming a barrier between them. She glanced his way, catching his eye, and her face broke into that warm smile again like a light breaking through clouds. Jake couldn't help but feel a rush of affection swell within him. What was it about her that made him feel so alive and so understood? "Dude," Harold's voice boomed, jolting him from his reverie. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Jake replied, forcing a chuckle. "Just, deep in thought." "Deep in thought or deep in love?" Harold teased, his eyes trailing toward Mia, who was now animatedly recounting something funny to her friends. Jake felt his cheeks heat up a little, embarrassed by the truth. "It's complicated," he said, glancing back and meeting Mia's gaze again. They shared a brief moment, filled with unspoken words, before Harold's booming laughter broke the moment. "Complicated is an understatement, man. Listen, you've got to get in there. Talk to her." Jake hesitated. What could he say? With everything looming over him regarding his family, what right did he have to pull Mia into his chaotic life? "Tomorrow," he breathed, half to himself. "There's so much happening tomorrow." Harold raised an eyebrow, clearly sensing the weight that hung over Jake. "Let us just enjoy tonight, all right? Whatever it is, you can't solve it by overthinking. Just be you." Jake nodded, though the knot in his stomach hadn't unraveled. He took a deep breath, feeling the party swell around him. He was here within the inner circle, a world moving on while he stood still, facing uncertainty. As the music shifted to a slower, more mellow tune, couples began to take to the floor for a dance, swaying in tandem. Suddenly, the thought of asking Mia to dance surged forward in Jake's mind. But would it only complicate things? He couldn't shake the inner dialogue battling within him. Before he could overthink it further, he found his legs responding to a decision he hadn't fully processed. He stepped away from Harold, making his way through the mingling guests, inching closer to Mia, who was now smiling even wider, caught up in her conversation. "Hey, Mia," Jake called out, his voice just above the music. She turned, and the moment felt charged. "Hey, Jake." She beamed, her friends looking on with intrigue. "Would you want to dance?" he asked, the words coming out faster than he expected. Her eyes lit up with surprise and delight. "I'd love that." Jake extended a hand, and as she took it, a wave of warmth washed over him. He led her to the small space on the floor where others were dancing, but it felt like their world shrank to just the two of them. As they swayed to the music, Jake felt her presence envelop him. Was this what he'd been missing? All the fears about tomorrow seemed to fade for a moment. "Jake," she said softly, pulling back to look him in the eyes, "what's on your mind?" At that moment, the question felt almost like an invitation. "Just everything, I guess," he replied, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. "Everything," she echoed, genuine curiosity sparking in her gaze. Jake hesitated. Could he share the weight of his family turmoil with her? Would she understand? The night felt electric, and the air buzzed with possibilities. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again in his pocket, but this time he ignored it. He needed clarity, not distraction. "Tomorrow is probably going to be the biggest day of my life," he started. But as he looked into Mia's eyes, the truth of his chaos wavered on his lips. Would he let her in? The music played on, but Jake felt the crossroads loom closer. Will he tell her the truth or risk losing this connection before it even begins to flourish? As they danced, Jake's heart raced, not just from the music, but from the weight of what he might say. Mia's gaze was expectant, encouraging him with a warmth that made him feel safe. He wanted to capture this moment, freeze it in time where nothing else mattered, no looming meetings, no family turmoil. Just them. But the shadow of his concerns crept back, clawing at the edges of his thoughts. Would sharing his struggle drive her away? Or would it deepen their connection? "I'm just worried about tomorrow," he admitted finally, his voice barely above a whisper, as if saying it out loud might make it real. "I have a lot on the line with my family." Mia nodded, her expression shifting to one of concern. "What do you mean?" Jake took a breath, feeling every second stretch. He wanted to trust her. "My uncle, he has always been hard on me. Tomorrow, I have to face him and convince him I can handle things. There's pressure," he explained, his eyes searching hers for understanding. "He sounds intense," she said, her brow furrowing. "But you're stronger than you think. You're not alone in this, you know." The sincerity in her words settled over him like a warm blanket, but doubt still gnawed at him. What if he doesn't see it that way? What if I mess it all up and let everyone down? He couldn't keep the shadow of fear from his voice. "You won, Mia said firmly, her eyes sparkling with conviction. "You're here right now, you're dancing with me, and that says something about who you are. You have a heart." Jake felt a wave of warmth flooding his chest. Could it be so simple? Maybe he didn't have to carry the weight alone. Nah, he couldn't share every fear, not yet, anyway. "Thanks, Mia," he said, a genuine smile breaking through the tension. "That means a lot to me." As they swayed, he not only felt her comfort, but also the urgency of the moment. The music wrapped around them, filling the air with sweet notes. Each sway felt like a countdown to the inevitable clash he'd have to face soon. "Tell me about you," he said, shifting gears. He needed to know more about her, to distract himself, or perhaps to postpone the heaviness he wasn't ready to unveil. Mia laughed softly, the sound bright and infectious. "There's not much to tell. I'm just trying to figure things out too. I'm working my way through school, chasing dreams, you know?" "Dreams?" he inquired, genuinely curious. "Yeah," she replied, her eyes glimmering. "I want to open a gallery someday. Art has always been my escape. Painting gives me life, the whisper of a brush on canvas. The way colors come together." He watched her expression light up, her passion infectious. "That sounds incredible. I didn't know you were an artist." "I dabble," she admitted, a bit shyly. "But I never really tell anyone. It's my little secret." "Not any longer," he smiled, committing her secret to memory, appreciating the way she let it spill from her lips, revealing a piece of herself in the warmth of the dance. As they lost themselves in shared stories and laughter, time slipped away. Jake felt lighter, as if the music had lifted the burden off his shoulders, if only for a little while. But all too soon, the song came to an end, leaving them breathless. They stepped back, the world outside their little bubble rushing back in. He looked around at the party, the energy, the music, the laughter, and squeezed her hand as if to ground himself. "Thank you for this. I really needed it," he said, sincerity flooding his voice. "Anytime, Jake," she responded, her smile softening the edges of his fear. But before he could frame the next question that danced on the tip of his tongue, his phone buzzed loudly again, cutting through the moment. This one felt insistent, demanding his attention, but he glanced at the screen, his stomach clenching as the name flashed before him, his uncle. It felt like a text from the storm he had tried to momentarily escape. Mia noticed the shift in his demeanor and tilted her head. "Everything okay?" Jake hesitated. Would this be a turning point? Would he unravel a bit more of himself? Or would this be the moment he backtracked now? That reality had reared its head. As he raised his phone, the incoming message like a tidal wave ready to crash down, he felt the weight of the world pulling back on his shoulders. Just then, a flash of doubt hit, leaving him standing on that uncertain edge once more. Would he let it define him, or seize the fragile moment of connection he had just made? Everything could change right after this, he thought, wavering between two paths. But just as he opened the message, Mia's hand found his, grounding him again. Jake looked at her, confusion dancing on his face. The next heartbeat could usher in a reckoning or a revelation. What would he choose? Jake's thumb hovered over the screen, heart thundering in his chest. A deep breath came in like a tidal wave, momentarily overwhelming everything else. The moment felt primed for the kind of revelation that could either burst his little bubble of comfort or solidify what was already forming between him and Mia. Her fingers squeezed his, anchoring him amid the torrent of emotions swirling in his mind. In that brief connection, he glimpsed something real, something worth holding on to. Must he open the floodgates now? Could he share it with her? The screen glowed, a harsh reminder of his responsibilities. He could almost hear his uncle's voice echoing in his head, sharp as glass. You're either a McCabe, a name that carries weight, or a nobody. This is your chance to prove your worth. He shook his head slightly, almost as if doing so would banish that voice. No, he whispered, forgetting Mia was right next to him. She grabbed his attention gently. What is it? Jake, you look pained. Her concern pulled him back from the brink. Everything felt so heavy, and then there was Mia, with her passionate eyes and warmth. Maybe I don't have to do this alone anymore, he thought. Even in the swirling chaos that was his life, there was this small, sparkling moment between them. I just got a text from my uncle, he managed to say, words escaping in a rush like water breaking from a dam. He's not. He isn't just hard on me. He is demanding. Always. Tomorrow's meeting is everything a chance to finally show him I can handle things, or I'll be stuck in his shadow forever. I'm sorry, Jake. Mia's voice was soft, like a soothing balm on his raw emotions. That is a lot to deal with. He nodded, feeling his heart sink. I keep thinking it's all too much. What if I fail? What if I crumble? Then I'd make my family look bad. Do you really believe that? She asked gently, leaning a little closer. A small part of him wanted to argue, but he could see the sincerity in her eyes, and it made him rethink everything. I guess I'm just tired of being seen as the failure or the pretty face of the family. Please don't think of yourself that way, Mia countered, her voice fierce with conviction. You're so much more. You're here, sharing yourself with me, choosing to face your fears. That's brave. Brave, the word hung in the air, heavy yet light, a challenge and a possibility. He swallowed hard, the weight of it digging deeper into his chest. What if she was right? Mia continued. You see, it's not just about impressing him. It's about showing yourself what you're truly made of. You've got to believe in your own strength first. And there it was, an unexpected spark of clarity, a tiny seed buried deep in the chaos, pushing through fear and doubt. What if I did? The energy shifted, and Jake realized that maybe he could step into the light, even if it terrified him. Perhaps sharing his burden with Mia wasn't just a gamble. It could be his lifeline. I want to believe that, he finally said more confidently, determination surging through him. Mia's smile lit up, radiant and encouraging. Then do. Tomorrow, walk in there not as your uncle's nephew, but as Jake. Own who you are, and let your heart guide you. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, a nervous text alert chimed again from his phone, shattering the moment like glass. He glanced down, the name sending ice through his veins. Jake, what is it? Mia asked, her brow furrowing in concern that he hesitated, the exhilaration crackling with confusion. Should he look? Should he ignore it? Mia was there, awakening possibilities he never saw before. But his uncle's message loomed ominously as he watched the screen flicker like a harbinger of chaos. He felt the weight of a decision pressing down on him. How much would he allow tomorrow's storm to dictate today's spark? In one corner of his mind, doubt screamed. In the other, courage whispered. He looked at Mia, as if she held the answer. Maybe I can be more than what's expected, he thought, glancing back at the phone. And then, as if sensing the weight of the moment hanging between them, Mia stepped closer, causing him to hold his breath. You've got this, right? Just know I'm here for you, no matter what. She didn't know how much he needed those words, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling this was preparing him for something bigger, something that would change everything. With a shaky exhale, he made his choice. He had to decide what kind of man he would be. Just as he steeled himself to respond, his phone buzzed again, the awaited storm finally about to break. Maybe this isn't the end, but a new beginning, he dared to think, heart racing toward an uncertain future. What awaited him next? The answers lay just beyond the horizon, and he was ready to face whatever came. Jake's heart raced as he finally turned his attention back to the glowing screen. The name on his phone made his pulse quicken further. His uncle's name was more than just a text. It felt like a ticking time bomb. Taking another steadying breath, he swiped the screen. There it was, the message that could either chain him to his past or open the door to his future. We need to talk before the meeting. Be ready. His gut twisted. Talk. What did that even mean? It felt like a command rather than an invitation. Mia leaned in closer, her own concern evident. Jake, you don't have to answer it right now. We can talk about this later, she said, her voice a steady anchor in a sea of uncertainty. But what if it's about tomorrow? His fingers felt cold as he typed back a simple acknowledgement. Sighing heavily, he fell back against the couch, letting the weight of everything wash over him. The situation had turned precarious, and he could feel the edge of fear nipping at his heels. Mia's fingers found his again, grounding him. You're not alone in this, remember? I know, but he faltered, the words caught in his throat. The energy shifted, filled with unspoken challenges. What if he doesn't see me? What if he only sees the name? They don't define you, Jake. You do. Her gaze burned with intensity, digging deep inside him. Think of tomorrow as a chance to redefine everything. Not just for him, but for you. Redefine, the word trembled on his lips like a child learning to walk. Could this moment really hold that kind of power? The uncertainty was paralyzing. Yet beneath it all, the embers of determination ignited within him. Look, Mia said softly, breaking through the chaos of his thoughts. You've already taken a step by sharing this with me. You're braver than you realize. He glanced at her, searching her eyes for the truth. In that moment, he felt buoyed by her unwavering belief in him. Okay, he whispered, I guess I need to own it. Own who I am. Exactly. She smiled, the warmth cascading over him like sunlight breaking through clouds. The storm you're facing isn't just from your uncle. It's the storm within you. And the best part is that you control how to face it. Jake nodded slowly, feeling the pieces start to align in his mind. What if this wasn't just another day of conforming to expectations? What if it became a day of self-discovery? The thought felt like taking a deep breath after being underwater too long. He could do this. He didn't have to be just another McCabe. He took a breath, steady and deep. The phone buzzed again, more insistent this time, pulling him back. Should he ignore it? He weighed that against the courage brewing inside him. Suddenly he felt bold, emboldened by Mia's presence. Let us see what he wants, he said, rising to his feet, determination flooding in. Are you sure? Mia looked anxious, though he sensed she also admired his resolve. Yeah, whatever he has to say, I'm ready, he replied, voice stronger than he felt. I want to let fear decide what happens next. Mia stood up beside him, their shoulders brushing lightly. I'm here, okay? She whispered, her voice just above a breath as if they were entering an uncharted territory. With the phone still gripped tight in his hand, Jake pressed it to his heart for a moment. Then let us do this together, he said, the words spurring him forward. The next chapter of his life was waiting on the other side of that text. All he had to do was step through to as he bent over the phone and stared at the screen. He felt a wave of determination wash over him. But before he could reply, a small notification popped up. A surprise. It wasn't from his uncle, but rather from someone he hadn't expected to hear from at all. His heart skipped. Was this the sign he needed, or just another moment to complicate everything? Jake held his breath as he glanced at the name lighting up his screen. It was a message from his old childhood friend, Mia. The familiar warmth surged back into him, relief flooding his veins against the turmoil lurking in the shadows of his mind. Hey, I know tomorrow is big for you, but remember you're not just a McCabe. You're Jake, the kid who showed up to coding club with a heart full of dreams. Don't lose that. The words hung in the air, stirring something deep within him. Could he really shift from the shadows of family expectations into the light of his own aspirations? They were like two different worlds, battling for space inside him. But he felt the pull of Mia's support echoing louder than any doubts swirling in his mind. Tomorrow is going to be a day of reckoning, he whispered to himself, letting the message sink in. He glanced at Mia, who stood close by, her eyes searching his face for signs of confidence or relief. In that moment, he felt a bond, a tether to hope, belief, and the gentle reminder that maybe he didn't have to fight alone. With renewed energy, he reached for his phone once more, replying to his uncle. I'll be ready. Let us talk. Clicking send felt like releasing a heavy anchor. He felt lighter, unburdened, as if he could finally take that step toward claiming his own narrative. As the night faded and the sky shifted into deep blues, Jake couldn't help but take a moment to reflect. All those sleepless nights working for respect, battling self-doubt and familial obligations. Could tomorrow be the beginning of a new chapter? What if dismantling the walls he built around himself brought him closer to who he really was? He stood tall, gathering energy from the vibrant party around him. "Hey, want to step outside?" he asked Mia, needing a space to breathe, to connect with this new resolve. "Sure," she replied, her smile lighting up the dim corners of the evening. They stepped onto the terrace, the city spread out below them, alive yet tranquil. Stars dotted the night sky, a contrast to the chaotic emotions swirling inside Jake's heart. The cool breeze wrapped around them, grounding him. "You know," he began, glancing over at Mia, "I used to think success was all about the money and titles. But now, I think it's about finding out who you are, who you want to be." "That's a powerful realization," she said softly. "It's not easy, Jake. But you're so much more than what your family wants you to be." Jake nodded, feeling the truth of her words resonate deeply. "I want to face tomorrow, not as a shadow, but as me. I want to own my story, my choices good and bad." Mia's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Remember, you don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You just have to be you." The words rang true. Maybe it was time to show Harold that vulnerability didn't equal weakness. With Mia by his side as his compass, he began to believe he could bridge the gap with his family, even rewrite the narrative he had been shackled to for so long. "Are you ready then? For tomorrow?" Mia's question was simple, yet infused with a weight of belonging. "I am," he said, the determination cementing inside him. "Tomorrow won't define me based on my uncle's words, but on my actions, my hopes, and the people who stand by me." As the evening wore on, a sense of peace enveloped him. Would the conversations with Harold be easy? Probably not. But they would embrace the truth and honesty, the very lifeblood of a meaningful relationship. They shared more stories under the gentle glow of the night, laughter punctuating the air, occasional silences rich with unspoken understanding, each moment drawing them closer. The party faded into the background, their connection growing like the starry canvas overhead. And as the night finally drew to a close, Jake realized something significant. He wasn't stepping into a dark room of judgment the next day. He was stepping into a light that his past had obscured for far too long. "Tomorrow truly will be the biggest day of my life," he whispered, mostly to himself, but felt through to Mia. She turned to him, her eyes shimmering. "With authenticity, believe in yourself. We're all rooting for you." That was when Jake fully understood. This was more than a battle with just his uncle. This was a journey toward becoming the man he was meant to be, imperfect, brave, and true. And together, they walked back inside, ready to face whatever lay ahead, no longer enveloped in the shadows, but ready to embrace the dawn of a new beginning. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the content flowing. Comment your reactions and feelings about this, ending your thoughts matter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support the channel, because only true fans understand the importance of these actions.